Welcome to the Gaggle, where we talk politics in Arizona and beyond. This week, President Trump makes an important decision regarding the young immigrants known as Dreamers, and things get tougher for Senator Jeff Flake and his re-election bid. But we start with former Sheriff Joe Arpaio and his pardon. Yvonne, President Trump issued the pardon on Friday. You spoke with him that night. Where do things go from here?
Well, it sounds as though he is off scot-free. I mean, this is a pattern with Sheriff Joe, seems to be continuing. President issued the pardon late Friday Eastern Time, 5 o'clock Arizona time. The sheriff celebrated with his wife over spaghetti and calamari, a detail we all laugh at, but I think is important. And he was pretty Joe Arpaio-esque that night of the pardon. It was kind of like any other night. It was surreal being in his home, and he didn't have a lot of family around. He wasn't doing anything particularly special beyond the dinner with his wife, which had already been planned. He had a lot of reporters calling him and banging on his door trying to get interviews. So we'll see where it goes from here. His people want his record wiped clean, and I don't know that that's necessarily going to happen.
So, Aaliyah, another big legal decision could come from the White House, and that's regarding DACA, which shielded young undocumented immigrants from deportation, gave them work permits and licenses to drive. What's going on here in relation to that right now?
And these are kids who would come, usually brought as very small children with their parents. So the idea was they had no control over coming here and, and kind of giving them some rights as they grew up. A lot of them are teenagers, young adults now. And basically we're kind of waiting to see. Trump has said first he opposed the program altogether at one point. Then he later said, well, it's not so bad, maybe we'll let it sit. And then we have a group of state lawmakers, none I believe from Arizona, who are now saying you have until September 5th to kind of come up with some kind of regulation or limitation on this program. And so we're waiting to see what Trump does. The thought now is that maybe he would sort of phase it out. So you wouldn't let anybody new join the program, but you wouldn't kick all the kids who are on it now, essentially kind of phasing it out. But it's, it's President Trump, so who knows? We could see the whole thing imploded. We could see nothing happen. If nothing happened, I believe the lawmakers said they'd file a lawsuit, and then we'll go through the courts and kind of see what happens.
So 10 attorneys general, 10 states have signed on to oppose this. One of them is not Arizona. Does that mean that the governor supports DACA?
Doesn't surprise me that he has not signed on to this. He frequently says you get knocked for what you do, not for what you don't. And remember, we still have this long-standing lawsuit involving the DACAs and the driver's licenses. The governor's office is the client, and this was a lawsuit that revolved around whether or not DACA students should get lawsuits. So Brnovich's office is continuing to press that. When you ask them, why are you continuing, they say, well, we're looking to our client for advice. Well, that client is the governor's office. They won't outright say whether or not he supports any sort of policy on DACA students, but he will speak a lot about their contributions. So we'll see what they have to say this week.
Dan, Senator Jeff Flake, his road to re-election gets tougher, apparently, at least in the minds of the prognosticators. Why are they thinking it's getting more difficult?
Well, there was a couple of polls out recently, showed him trailing Kelly Ward, his best-known primary challenger. Obviously, President Trump showed that he's still going to batter Flake at will, either on Twitter or from the stage at the Phoenix rally. And the political handicappers, these are influential folks in Washington, D.C., independent, nonpartisan, who just kind of analyze the races, put ratings on them, are kind of downgrading the GOP chances of holding the seat. I think there's a feeling that should Kelly Ward be able to knock Flake off in the primary, that she might not be able to win the general election.
Yvonne, what are you watching for this week?
Will the school voucher effort make it? I just want to know when.
Will the school voucher fill in the blank? Dan, what are you watching for?
Expect some more developments in this emerging U.S. Senate race.
And Aaliyah.
DACA. We've got Arizona folks kind of preparing for it, already planning for what's going to happen or what could happen. Depending on what happens, we could see some more protests or whatever. We'll see.
That's it. Thanks for joining us. If you want more Gaggle, subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcasts and Stitcher. Thanks for joining us.